Well, once I got the At Swim Two Birds thing done, ended up drumming in quite a few bands in Dunedin over that period of time. Cyclops with Bruce Blucher, Kathy Bull, Andre Richardson. Dimmer with Shane. King Loser for a little bit there with Chris and Celia. Snapper sometimes if Alan Haig couldn't play. Pete Gutteridge would ask me. Sometimes I played David Kilgour too if he needed a drummer, if Jeff Warney wasn't able to. Sandra Bell, not so much live but on her records I played it. So I was doing a fair bit of drumming. Played grind, of course, with Alistair and Robbie and Dave Mitchell. That's how I ended up playing with Robbie. I'd recorded the RIP EP Stormport, and Robbie had come around to do Tropic Carol. And I realised what a good guitar player he was. In Plague or Grind I was on drums, he was on bass, and one day he came around and we wrote Fate of the Human Carbine. That's where the Last Great Challenge thing kicked in. So that was gradually, you know, the solo career thing, if that's what you call it, was starting to happen, but I didn't really know it was starting to happen. Because as far as I was concerned, I was collaborating with Robbie, which I was. But I was also writing this bunch of songs that kind of became the framework for Last Great Challenge. I was still with Sally Loney at that point, so we were still living together, and the key songs on the album that framed it were written while I was with her, which were Chain or Reaction, On an Unknown Beach, Fate of the Human Carbine, because that's on the album now, and ended up on the CD. It would have been on the cassette if it had 20 seconds more space, but we didn't. Last Great Challenge in Dull World itself, and Listening In, which was the last song. So that was like the framework for it. And me and Sally split up. I went and sort of lived in a warehouse type place that I called my studio for a while, but that didn't work out too good, and ended up out at Port Chalmers with Bruce Russell, Jane Davidson, the painter. She was really cool to hang out with, and Stella Corkery was there as well. Some other people moved in as time went along, but they were the people when I first moved in. And by that point, Expressway was up and running. We'd done the first few cassettes and all that, and doing At Swim was good because quite often some people have pointed out to me that sometimes each album that I make is kind of like a reaction to the previous one. Not every time, but there's some fairly dramatic shifts. If you think of something like A Bed of Bees being followed by 5x4, that's a fairly big shift. Following in the same room with all that singing by doing a complete instrumental record with a different person, that was a shift. So I guess at that point I could come back to the song thing, but I had all these cool musicians in Port Chalmers around me, and Bruce's presence, his guiding vibe, if you like, he gave me the right environment to do it in. And so that was made as, right, come on, I've just got to get these songs out, I can't wait anymore. It was made as the solo album, it wasn't intended as, here's my solo, as I was going to do one, here it was. But there was that interest from Ajax Records in America, and with some of the TKP stuff getting reissued as well, I had enough material that I could go over there and play what I considered sketch versions of the songs. I didn't have to take a band by that point. It wasn't going to work if I had to drag other people along with me. I mean, Alistair came along and did his solo thing, but in terms of a band. But if I was just going to go and play piano and sing, like John Cale, yeah, not as good as him, but that idea. I felt like people had to know the songs, because part of what worked for the Cale concert for me was I knew how the songs went on the record. Had stripped them down to just this, but I got it. I think most of the audience got it. So I needed the audience to know enough songs. They didn't have to know every song, but they had to know at least 7 or 8. Or I hoped that they would get what I was trying to do. You can hear the rest in your head kind of thing, or realise that by myself this is how I play them. And that worked really well. The tour went great, people got it, it was accepted. For me it felt like so much less than anything I'd done because I'd already had other people around me, but at the same time it was so much more because now I didn't need anybody else's permission to do it or anybody else's cooperation to do it in terms of being on stage. I needed the cooperation of record labels to put the stuff out and clubs that would take me, and I needed the cooperation of the audience who would accept something that minimal as a performance and go and see it. And they did. America was, that first tour changed the ground plan for me. Got back from that and someone in Europe had heard that it had gone well and they wanted me to play at the Fast Forward Festival in Dawn Rouge, which was a great thing to be able to go and do. And realising that going from one show wasn't very practical, they'd sorted out this guy Dirk Hugson who would tour me around other countries in Europe, so we got to go to, where did we go? Belgium, Austria, lots of shows in Germany because next to America that's probably my next best market, Germany. As it is for a lot of people, Germany's a lifeline. Quite open-minded, the Germans, and they're listening to music. Very cool place to be. So I was pleased we had a lot of shows there. I think we went to France, but we didn't end up playing because it got cancelled, and a few other places. Didn't go to England the first time, went the second time. At one point we went to Vienna, that was awesome. But anyway, went over there and did that, and of course we played Holland, Played that, got treated really well. Didn't realise just how hospitable European venues are, but man, they are great. They feed you, they put you up in hotels, not motels, hotels. They treat you like you're actually not an inconvenience to their rugby match that's going on in the next bar, you know. And they pay you. We had three shows in Holland, 2 of which were absolutely packed out, and the third one we got 6 people. And they guaranteed us $1,000, and they paid it. And they apologised to us for promoting it badly, because they didn't, you know, it wasn't our fault there was only 6 people. That was their view. Now, who here would do that? You know what I mean? Having said that, though, actually the King's, not the King's Arms, the Golden Dawn were very nice to us just a few weeks ago and paid us the full amount for a gig that wasn't as well attended as the previous one. Still enough people went, but plenty of other places would have argued, oh, it wasn't as many as last time, we'll give you this. But they didn't. They honoured it, you know. So who would do that? Well, actually Golden Dawn would do that, but back in that time frame, we're talking the 90s, bars in New Zealand, every excuse was often made why you didn't have to pay the band. And 6 people would have been, you joking, piss off. You know, you're not giving you anything. So that was a real lesson. And Americans are really hospitable too. But you don't get that kind of, don't always get a meal. Sometimes you do. You don't always get accommodation. Sometimes you do. But in the case of America, there always seemed to be, it was like this underground network of people who knew each other, and if you were seen as a worthwhile person in whatever way, I'm not quite sure how you were perceived as that, but people would help you. You could stay at their places, and they would go out of their way to make it doable for you, so you weren't having to pay for accommodation every time. And that was a privilege too. So as far as accommodation mattered, it didn't really matter. I was just as comfortable on an American sofa as I was in a European hotel. But in terms of the comparison towards New Zealand, yeah, you started to realise that not everywhere treated musicians the way they were treated here. You know, where sport is the colour and none is the number, as Dylan would say. If you're a musician. Sometimes. Not all the time, sometimes.